Good morning, everyone. This is a great day, not just for Los Angeles, this is a great day for the state of California. I want to thank Governor Newsom for inviting me here today and all of the other leaders for your leadership in championing these two critical bills. And to the staff here at LA General, and I used to work here, so this is very nostalgic for me. I worked in this building. I want to thank everyone for their tireless work, and especially their tireless work on this specific issue. Here in LA and throughout our city and state, we all know that we are facing a crisis. We all know that we cannot address the unhoused population if we don't address mental health and substance abuse at the same time. We also know that it's a chicken and egg issue. There's some people that believe that the unhoused population all suffer from mental health and substance abuse issues, and we know that that's not true. We know in many cases it's a chicken or egg situation, and I would ask everybody here how they might deal with their mental health and substance abuse vulnerability if you were living in a tent for a month or a week. But I will say, as we have confronted this crisis, we've discovered many barriers. We've discovered barriers, but when we discover barriers, we knock them down. We are disrupting the status quo, and that is what today is about. Today, we are here to lock arms with Governor Newsom and our state legislators as the governor signs two critical bills. One, to transform California's mental health and substance use treatment system. And let me just congratulate the original author of the legislation 20 years ago, current Mayor Darrell Steinberg. He authored legislation, the Mental Health Services Act, that really transformed the system that now needs updating. And our current author, Senator Eggman, for her leadership. We are going to transform the system, but we're also going to do something that should have been done 50 years ago, and that is build the beds and the facilities to make sure that people we want to make sure that people can get the treatment that they need. Just saying that people should receive treatment and having nowhere to deliver that treatment is only halfway. Well, I want to acknowledge all of the legislative leaders who made this possible in addition to the governor, Assemblymember Irwin, Senator Eggman, and my big city mayors led by the chair of the big city mayors, Chairman Todd Gloria of San Diego, and Mayor Rex Richardson from Long Beach and Locke Dawson from Riverside. The largest cities in California joined together over the last year and fought for passage of all of these bills. These bills are absolutely essential in our efforts to address homelessness, along with mental health and substance abuse, because no person suffering from these issues should be left on the street. I believe fundamentally that in our county alone, to have 70,000 unhoused people, there is no way to look at this and not call it an emergency. So with that, let me introduce Supervisor Hilda Solis, who has already made outstanding contributions, and I'm sure in your remarks, you will mention the facilities that you've already built right here on this property. So join me in welcoming Supervisor Hilda Solis.
Buenos dias, and welcome to the First District. I'm Supervisor Hilda Solis, and I know we're all gathered here, but it's especially important for us to also give thanks to our Governor, Gavin Newsom, for bringing us all together today, something that he through his leadership, knows that this is the issue that is our #1 issue facing Californians today. And I'm happy that he chose to come here in the 1st District and also to be a great part of what is happening here that's so transformative in Los Angeles County. I can't begin to tell you that all that has been said already by our mayor is really at the crux of why we're here. It's about mental health, it's about substance abuse, it's about providing housing for the unhoused. Let's just put it out there. That's really what this is about. And across this county, we have made comprehensive efforts to provide needed services to our most vulnerable residents impacted by all these challenges. But when it comes to mental health and substance abuse, there's simply no recovery without housing. The first step to stability is getting people indoors where they are safe and stable in an environment that facilitates healing and recovery. These reforms will bring more people into housing where they can connect to the services that they need. And coupled with the behavioral health infrastructure bond, we can stand up much needed infrastructure to bring people indoors, both into housing and into needed facilities with care. That's why we're gathered here today and why it's so fitting to be here at the old General Hospital. This is the flagship for the County of Los Angeles, serving as a regional hub for many of our most vulnerable residents across the county. And it is continuing to evolve to meet their complex needs. We're transforming this building that you're sitting in right now, the historic General Hospital, into a sorely needed housing facility that will, hopefully, we can anticipate up to 1,000 units for rehabilitation. To date, LA County has received an investment of $50 million from the state of California and the legislature, due in part to the governor's leadership and to make this vision a reality. And I'm happy to report that next month we will be taking up action at the Board of Supervisors meeting to officially move forward with the public-private partnership to begin the adaptive reuse of this magnificent building to bring housing and open space and multiple community resources to our residents of Los Angeles County. Thank you. Today's signing of Assembly Bill 531 and Senate Bill 326 will only help to advance this critical project, and I look forward to these bills moving to the March 5th, 2024 ballot that will be known as Proposition 1, and to wholeheartedly look for voters' support to leverage additional resources to transform our public assets like these to provide much-needed holistic care and housing. In addition to the public-private partnership to transform the historic General Hospital, I would like to take a moment just to highlight very briefly another initiative on this campus which the state of California is a critical partner in, and that is our restorative care village. We are currently completing the last 2 phases of that restorative care village on the campus, providing comprehensive physical and behavioral health, as well as substance use care, and also providing that care to our most vulnerable, obviously. This includes people experiencing homelessness and our justice-impacted residents. Parts of the village are already operating with dozens of unhoused residents healing in recuperative settings right now as we speak. Specifically, the Restorative Care Village houses a continuum of care of our most vulnerable populations with 64 mental health beds and 96 recuperative beds already in operation. This was due to support from the state. The remaining phases, we're not done yet. The remaining phases, which will be completed and operational in 2.5 years. Can you imagine that? 2.5 years, we're going to have 128 subacute mental health beds and substance withdrawal facility that will be made available and a mental health urgent care center. The Restorative Care Village will also encompass 300 plus permanent supportive housing units, in addition to what I said earlier here, where we could potentially have 1,000, up to 1,000 beds and places for people to receive the care, appropriate care. Also workforce training, create a kitchen so people could learn the arts, culinary arts, and a cafe here, and all of that for people who reside in this area. None of that could happen, though, without the leadership and support of the state of California, our legislators, as well as our governor. So to that end, I want to thank Governor Gavin Newsom for his continued leadership and partnership in propelling transformational projects that seek to address the highest health and housing needs of our time. Los Angeles County, let's go on record. We are here to stand with you, Governor, and to do everything we can. We're so grateful and humbled that you are all here today with us in the 1st District, but in this historic building. I look forward to continuing to work with all of you and to provide the much-needed healing and restoration for our shared constituents. And with that, I have the honor of introducing our chair, Janice Hahn, representing the 4th District. Please welcome Janice Hahn. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Solis, for hosting us here today in your district and for inspiring us. Just listening to you and all that this space will be in the future. And, you know, we have people who have been born in this hospital. I think Assemblywoman Blanca Pacheco's mother worked in this hospital. Our mayor talked about working in this hospital. So there's been a past, but listening to you, there's definitely going to be a future for this space that will really transform lives. I wanted to thank the governor for inviting me, as well as Supervisor Solis, to join here today. I'm honored to be the chair of the all-women LA County Board of Supervisors. And I see one of our other colleagues in the audience, Supervisor Holly Mitchell, representing the 2nd District. The mental health crisis and how we get help to the people struggling with serious mental illness have been some of the most difficult challenges that we have faced. And I want to thank again Governor Newsom and all those who had the courage to stand with him for not shying away from this issue, but deciding to tackle it head on. This is a problem that has demanded bold change, and that is what we are seeing coming out of Sacramento, and what we're going to see here in LA County and across our state. Here in LA County, we were less than 2 months out from launching the Governor's Care Court initiative, and finally having the tool we need to help people with schizophrenia and psychotic disorders who have been nearly impossible to help in the past. And the 2 bills that Governor Newsom will be signing today are essential to our success. And with the support of California voters, we can build tens of thousands of places where we can treat mental illness and where people with severe mental illness can live and get well. There are too many people languishing on our streets here in LA County who need and deserve this help. And that includes veterans who are specifically called out in this legislation with $1 billion set aside specifically for veteran housing. Thank you for that. I want to especially applaud the author, Senator Eggman, Assemblymember Irwin, and of course, the godfather of the legislation, Mayor Dale Steinberg, who didn't just author and see the passage of that legislation, but has stayed involved all these years to continue to see how to make it better and how to make sure the intent of that legislation is really happening on the streets where people most need it. Between now and March 1st, I will be campaigning for Proposition 1. Californians need to know there's a pathway forward to helping people who are struggling with serious mental illness, and this is it. With that, I'd like to introduce Assemblymember Jim Wood.
Well, Good morning, everyone. And I too, you can hear a lot of thank yous today, obviously, but I want to thank the governor and his team, my counterpart in the Senate, Senator Eggman, the chair of the Senate Health Committee, for tackling this. But I also want to thank them for the opportunity to work with them on this issue. I had the honor and the challenge of moving this through the Assembly. And I also had the honor of presenting this on the Assembly floor when it was being considered by the members. Today and then, my message is the same. The behavioral health challenges we faced decades ago when the Mental Health Services Act was first enacted are not the same as what we face today. At the time, the legislature addressed those challenges with the programs, the resources, and processes that we thought best suited those needs. Now we've revisited and reconsidered, and we knew we had to adapt to what is needed today. And decades from now, or even sooner, we'll probably have to pivot again. That is pretty much guaranteed. We know something has to be done, and what we've been doing, even while we acknowledge the passionate efforts of our dedicated public health, mental health, and social service partners, needs to adjust to face the reality we see on our streets, as well as the needs of the people we don't see, who are also struggling. People are struggling with behavioral health disorders and homelessness, and it's playing out in front of us every day, on our streets, in our schools, the smallest of rural communities in our largest cities, and even behind closed doors. So SB 326 and its companion bill, AB 531, will help the very young, the elderly, the many who are unsheltered, as well as those who are housed but still suffering serious mental illness and substance use disorder. SB 326 and AB 531 pay heed to the treatments and services as well as the housing needs that are so desperately needed. It addresses our changing world. Thank you again to the authors and the governor for taking these steps to make life better for our vulnerable residents. And now I'd like to introduce Senator Roth from the Inland Empire, chair of our Senate Business and Appropriations.
Thank you, Dr. Wood. Good morning. You know, this is a great day for California. Thank you, Governor Newsom. This package of bills sets in motion the transformation of our state's behavioral health system to fully reflect the challenges that we face in this state today. The Behavioral Health Infrastructure Bond, in particular, will provide, among other things, $1.5 billion to expand the continuum of behavioral health treatment resources, specifically including, for the first time, new acute care inpatient psychiatric beds, which are critically needed for emergency situations where a short-term stay is essential for mental health stabilization and treatment. Helping those with behavioral health challenges, those, frankly, who are least able to help themselves. It is a great day in California, indeed, and it's a privilege to have been included on the team. I almost forgot my most important role, and that's to introduce the man who's been described as the father of the Mental Health Services Act, the godfather of the Mental Health Services Act. He told me I couldn't call him the grandfather of the Mental Health Services Act, but he has truly been a mentor and a friend to me. The former President Pro Tem of the California State Senate, the current mayor of the city of Sacramento, Mayor Darrell Steinberg.
Thank you, Senator Roth. My heart this morning is full. It is full of gratitude for so many. To Governor Newsom for defying the political conventional wisdom that says working on these issues is not popular, not going to get you even farther. Thanks for taking it on as your signature priority. Thank you to Senator Eggman for being the mental health leader of your generation, not just this bill today, but what you accomplished around conservatorship and care court as well. truly outstanding. Assemblymember Irwin, thank you for taking the mantle of leadership. To all the members of the legislature, the chairs, Chair Wood, Chair Roth, for ensuring the passage of these historic bills. I want to thank the governor's staff and all the legislative staff. Dana Williamson, Mark Galley, Secretary Galley, Jason Elliott, Christy Bauma, Kim McCoy, and everyone who worked so hard on all of this. To my fellow big city mayors, what a power and force we are in making sure that these bills became our top priorities and thus the state's top priorities. Mayor Bass, Mayor Gloria, all of you Patricia Locke Dawson and Mayor Richardson, those of you who are here today, the county supervisors, what a partnership we now have. Hilda Solis and Janice Hahn, we are all in this together. I want to thank the late Rusty Seelix, who was my partner in crime, so to speak, who is gone too soon, but we wouldn't be here without Rusty. And Richard Van Horn, all of the same, all of the advocates, Toby Ewing, and all those who have served over the last 20 years. And special thank you to the institute that is humbly in my name. Karen Larson, Tom Insel, the board of directors, our great staff. You're incredible, and you dreamt this half a dozen years ago, and here we are today. Your credit as well. And mostly, thank you to the families and the workers and the providers who care for people living with serious mental illness and who have done this work in good times and in bad, and especially during times when few others paid attention. This is your day, too. When we proposed and passed the Mental Health Services Act in 2004, our goal was ambitious and it was audacious. We aimed to uphold that failed promise made by prior generations of state leaders, to fully fund whatever it takes, and to ensure that people living with serious mental illness live with dignity, independence, and safety in our communities. The closure of these old state hospitals in the 1970s and the 1980s was the right decision. The money saved was supposed to shift directly to the community. The failure of successive state governments until the current one, good sir, to uphold the community funding promise is one of the main reasons people and our communities are suffering so badly today. MHSA's 20-year history and $31 billion of community-based services has saved many lives and has moved us farther towards keeping our word. But we are here today because the work is so incomplete. Today's historic signing of SB 326 and AB 531 moves us dramatically closer to making good on our 60-year promise and will ensure that the original intent of the MHSA, the Mental Health Services Act, is in fact met. Governor Newsom is the first governor in history to make mental health and substance abuse care a signature state priority. He has backed that commitment with billions of additional dollars in resources and bold policies to remove the many obstacles to people getting help. Thanks to his leadership and the leadership of Senator Eggman and Assemblymember Irwin and all the members of the legislature who are here today, these billions from the new Behavioral Health Services Act plus the bond will now be focused and prioritize much more effectively for people who are the most vulnerable and help ensure that fewer people with serious mental illnesses live in conditions that no one should have to endure. The original MHSA gave broad authority to local governments to determine their priorities, and local implementation and flexibility will always be an important principle. But more important is the voters declaring loud and clear next March that these precious dollars, gifts from the people after all, must be dedicated to alleviating our state's most urgent problems: the plight of unsheltered suffering from serious mental illness and substance abuse, and young people most at risk from experiencing the worst consequences of not getting this early help that they need and deserve. That's what the modernization of the Mental Health Services Act and the billions from the new bond will appropriately require. Every dollar, every program, every roof, every bed, every newly trained caring provider means one more person off our streets, out of the hospital, out of jail, out of a lonely back bedroom, and with the chance for a better life. Like our nation's work to form a more perfect union that will never be complete, fulfilling our promise to fix the broken behavioral health system will never be finished. But thanks to the courage and the will of the leaders standing in this room today, we have a much better chance to get far closer to that day when no one has to suffer needlessly because they or their loved ones didn't know where to turn for help in the most difficult moment of their lives. Vote yes on Prop 1 in March of 2024. And thank you, everybody. Let's go. Si se puede. It is now my honor to turn it over to Jolisa Heband, who is from Cal Hope Outreach, NAMI, California, and NAMI Westside, LA. Jolisa, please, welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jolisa Hebard, and I'm with NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Westside, Los Angeles. My story with mental illness actually starts probably with my grandmother with depression from the Great Depression. My dad is a Vietnam vet that had PTSD. My mom struggled with depression. I have lived with substance use. My sister lives with bipolar. My son is on the autism spectrum and also a suicide attempt survivor. The stuff that we are doing today is going to help families to help themselves and help their loved ones. There's a saying in recovery that if nothing changes, nothing changes. The Mental Health Service Act provided so much growth and so much opportunity over the last 20 years, and now we get to be a part of the change that's going to allow families, people with mental health conditions, legislators, public officials to help us to build a better system within California for our loved ones. Thank you, Governor, for this amazing work that you're doing to help our state, to help our citizens, and to help our families. We really, really appreciate it, and I thank you for letting us be here today. And I'm going to turn it over to Juan Garcia with US Vets. Come on up, Juan.
Juan Garcia, US Vets. I'm an initial invasion combat veteran, Army retired paratrooper. Although that all sounds absolutely amazing, there was a lot of challenges that I had to go through. Mental health challenges, suicide, idealization, just everything that you could possibly think of as a reintegrating combat vet. But thank you so much to early intervention prevention programs, housing, access to resources, the Mental Health Services Act. I've been able to become a provider for US Vets. I oversee the program in Orange County where thank you. I really appreciate that. I oversee the program in Orange County where I advocate on behalf of veterans, senior veterans, and veteran families as well, those that do not want to identify or just feel that they don't have any resources. I was also able to accomplish my goal, which was to get my master's degree from University of Southern California. Thank you. And then one of the biggest and most important one was that I was able to also thank you to everything that I've gone through, all my challenges, my resilience here in Los Angeles. I was able to adopt 2 children, my 15-year-old and my 3-year-old, which I love so much, and I'm here to lead the way. Thank you. Thank you, Governor. And, of course, I'd also like to welcome up Assembly Member Jackie Irwin.
Well, good morning, everybody, and what an incredible day. I want to start by thanking veterans like Juan, who we truly can never thank enough. I want to thank the governor and his staff, my colleague, Susan Eggman, who is truly amazing, all the advocates, the mayors. My former colleague, Todd Gloria, I'm not sure if he's here, but he was the one that called our office to say we need more money, and we ended up putting, thanks to the governor, another $1.5 billion for cities and counties, so thank you to Todd for that. So I am the Assembly member representing the 42nd Assembly District, which encompasses portions of Ventura and LA County. And back last February, I was sitting in the governor's office with a working group trying to deal with gas prices. I guess we haven't quite gotten there yet. And the governor called me out of that meeting into his office and said, "I know you've been working for a long time on veterans issues and VHHP, but I have a much larger idea, and I would like to absorb that effort into my idea. And certainly when you're talking about a big idea, this is a big idea, the #1 concern for Californians. So I truly appreciate you offering to let us work on this issue with you. And sadly, we've seen an unsettling number of our constituents living on streets, in our parks, and under our freeways. And we also know the connection between homelessness, behavioral health challenges, and substance abuse. And those are the leading causes of our current crisis. AB 531, which was increased to $6.38 billion with the governor's leadership, will provide a historic investment in our behavioral health and homelessness continuum of care. As the former chair of the Assembly Committee on Military and Veterans Affairs, I would like to highlight the $1 billion in funding which has been set aside exclusively for veteran housing. We have made significant strides in reducing the California homeless veteran population through the Veteran Housing and Homeless Prevention Program known as VHHP. For years, I've carried the bond measure to expand VHHP, and in last year's budget, we were able to secure some additional rounds of funding. However, renewing our commitment, our long-term commitment to serving veterans with behavioral health challenges through Proposition 1 is the right thing to do. And expanding services to the larger homeless population is absolutely critical. These investments will go even further with reforms to the Mental Health Services Act in Senator Eggman's SB 326, which will help fund new facilities and provide services that will help these populations. I look forward to joining the governor to advocate for the passage of Proposition 1 by the voters on the March 5th primary ballot. And with that, I would like to introduce our passionate advocate, Senator Eggman.
Thank you. Thank you. What a day. What a day this is. What a day. What a day. I don't know if it's possible to feel any better and more humble and grateful all at the same time, but that is exactly what I'm feeling now. People keep saying, how does it feel? I mean, it feels surreal. For so many of us who have been in this battle for so many years, that all of a sudden the stars aligned. the stars aligned and there was a path to actually do big things in California around behavioral health. Like everybody else, I want to thank Governor Gavin Newsom, there has never been a governor in the state of California, I don't think in the nation, who has prioritized mental health and substance abuse the way this governor has. Thank you. And I will say it is only right and just for him to prioritize what is the most important thing in California that we all see every single day, right? We have never had a bigger crisis than we have on our streets and in our community and in our political narrative. Because to allow people to linger on the streets and to cycle in and out of our systems, throwing good money after good money after good money, burning out healthcare workers, burning out substance abuse workers because they just see this path that just keeps going. Susan Partovi talked about watching people die with their rights on the streets. We can see who the next ones are who are going to die because we didn't have the tools. We didn't have the tools. So what are we going to do now, right? We're going to get those tools together. So this year, through the work of Assemblymember Wood, who's been my steadfast partner, Mark Galley back over there, who we have had so many conversations. I want to thank my staff personally, my Chief of Staff, David Stammerjohn, and my Ledge Director, Logan Hess, who have just been champions and trying to make all this crazy lady's dreams come true. The governor's staff has been incredible. The big city mayors have been incredible. I have all their cell phone numbers, and anytime I needed someone for a committee hearing or if I felt a member was getting shaky, I would call them, and they would really send out the troops. Mayor Bass, there was a couple members who said, I don't know. I said, I'll have Mayor Bass call you. Oh, it's okay. I'm good. So all of us together, right, because that's really what it takes, all of us, this whole community. And I think being able to listen to the public, right? Why is this so important? It's because it's a crisis that we have turned away from for too long. Well, no longer will we look away. I think it's profound that we're here in this building, right? We turned our back on. We turned our back on old buildings. We turned our back on people. We are turning back. We are saying we see you, right? The days of looking away are gone. I want to thank the NAMI families. We heard you. We saw you. You led the way, the decades that you have spent searching for your loved ones in hospitals, in emergency rooms, on the streets, having to watch Facebook group sites to know that your loved one is safe, waiting for that phone call to know, thank God they're in jail, they're not being assaulted on the streets. We all come to this with our own personal stories about the frustrations of knocking our heads against walls, trying to get people we love help. Well, now we have all the pieces together. Through the infrastructure money we've done, through the funding that we've done through BCHIP since 2021, we have really worked and pushed on this, doing Care Court last year. My gratitude to the what's his name? He's the governor. But for signing my conservatorship reform last year, another thing that was a third rail in California. But we just couldn't do everything we wanted to in this area and then let people crash onto the sidewalks and splatter and let the public walk by and have to unsee them. No more. No more. And I think being able to effectively deal and address and work on these issues around mental health and behavioral health and substance abuse is going to make our whole national dialogue better. It's going to make us see each other no matter where we stand in any kind of political spectrum, because we'll know that we can come together and do big things and help people and live like we all should be living. So I want to thank you all here today for gathering. Our work is not done. We got to implement. And that's why this coalition of nonprofits, of counties, of cities, of tribes, of the veterans. I started my first job in mental health was in 1979. Yes, I'm old. Right before I went to the United States military for 4 years and have worked in and around this field my whole life. So this is incredibly gratifying to be able to actually move the needle. And I know it's just not me. It's this whole push that's been happening for a long time. And I'm just glad I could be a part of it. And at this point, I want to introduce the man of the hour that we're all so grateful to be here with. Best governor in the country, in the world, Governor Gavin Newsom.
thank you all. This is a hell of a crowd, by the way. I snuck in a little late, though I was here early. I had the privilege and opportunity to have a round table just downstairs, and as I said to the group at the end of our discussion, to distill the essence of why we're here and rediscover the why. Because we're answering not just the why today, we're answering the what and how. And I think today marks a powerful and important milestone that we are moving beyond identifying issues, but to a paradigm shift to begin the process of being accountable to solve them. And I want to underscore the issue of accountability, because I imagine folks at home watching folks like us, podiums like this, they're a little exhausted. They've kind of had it. They've given up. A lot of folks have. That things will ever improve, ever get any better. That, their concerns matter, that we even give a damn or care. And their frustration is palpable. It's self-evident. It's manifests in so many different forms. Dejection, despair, populism, revolt. But at the end of the day, they're right to be frustrated, because the results we haven't proved that we are capable of meeting their concerns and anxieties. The results aren't there. And today, again, is about holding ourselves to a higher level of accountability and a higher level of expectation. And it's about creating a framework where we actually can deliver, recognizing we all have a fundamental role to play. This is not Washington, D.C.'s issue. It's not Sacramento's issue. It's not L.A. County or city's issue. All of us have a role and responsibility to play. Society becomes how we behave. We are our behaviors. The last half century, where we can lament about what went wrong as it relates to the issue of deinstitutionalization, what went wrong with the Elijah and Petra Short Act. By the way, the year of my birth, 1967, that happened on my watch. That happened on many of your watch. Again, society becomes how we behave. We have a responsibility to shift this paradigm. And so, again, I'm here mindful of this moment, sober in the reality, as the senator said, that this is the beginning of a process. I say this all the time. Program passing is not problem solving. Signing a bill doesn't change the world. It's all the work that has to be done. It's the application of our ideals. It's the manifestation of our ideals. And so we are here with a sense of hopefulness and possibility. I heard that when I walked in. You feel that. It's palpable. And all of you that are assembled here today. A recognition that in this nation, we screwed this up. For all the goodwill and good intentions, and I know we cast aspersions. I'm a partisan Democrat at times. At times. I thought it was just all Ronald Reagan's fault. But then I started to learn about the O'Connor versus Donaldson decision in '75, and I think, well, that wasn't Reagan. The Supreme Court decision around deinstitutionalization, mental illness can't be the exclusive reason we incarcerate someone. I started to learn about what happened in the 50s and 60s and psychotropics and lithium and thorazine, and all of a sudden the ability now to medicate people at home and in the community and the need not to have a locked facility. I recognized that these facilities, you walk downstairs with me. You need to have 2 or 3 people there. It could be scary, some of these places. And so there was a righteousness in the 60s. There was. Democrats and Republicans saying, we got to move away from these locked institutions, these beds. But the vision was never fulfilled. Again, lack of accountability. The implementation wasn't there after LPS. They made all these promises. We had 22,000 locked beds in the state of California in 1967. And we were supposed to replicate that at community-based care. But there was no accountability, ultimately. There was no obligations either way. And that's what we're trying to reconcile. That said, we're also building on the back of some giants that tried to do the right thing and did the right thing. One of them was current mayor of Sacramento. Talk about a damn hero on this issue, Darrell Steinberg. one of these two bills, there'd be no bill to sign today because there would have been no Mental Health Services Act to reform. But the fact that the author of the legislation in 2004 acknowledges the world that existed in 2004 is not the world that existed today, and he's willing to take it upon himself to say, we were right in terms of how we laid out a vision, but we were wrong not to own up to the fact that things had shifted and things had changed. And this wouldn't have happened unless he asserted himself in his moral leadership in this process and said, as the author of the Mental Health Services Act, we need to reform this. We need to include substance abuse. We need to include housing as a foundational component. We need to advance a workforce where we have ongoing funding to address the crisis of workforce. There is no vision realized unless we have visionaries that are willing to sacrifice and help lift other people up. And that's a workforce that will be benefited, $2.4 billion just in the next 5 years, specifically with the signature that I will attach to this piece of legislation, just in that one fundamental component of the Mental Health Services Act reform. That's a big damn deal. To Senator Eggman, you heard it. This has been a cause and a passion of our life. What a gift it was just last week. I mean, just the conservatorship reform we did last week, which didn't seem to get that much attention, hell, that would have been the biggest accomplishment of the last decade. In the isolation of the progress that we've been making together. And I just want to make a point, and I want to distill all that and ask all of you to come on up, because this is a group moment to sign this legislation. But I've said this often, once a mind is stretched, it never goes back to its original form. I really believe that. And I think what started shifting, and I see all these amazing legislative leaders here, including local leaders and former state leaders that are in positions of real power and influence locally, is people all started to recognize, we were playing in the margins. We were arguing to fail more efficiently. And we had to own up to that. Tinkering around, Kendra's law becomes Laura's law, and then you look at you're like 208, I think we had 218 people we helped one year. This is small ball. And we needed to process things differently. That care court, I thought, was a paradigm shift. We've got 7 counties now, just started a couple weeks ago. And the willingness for people to listen, and thank you for saying it. NAMI, we wouldn't be here without you either. And all these courageous leaders and moms and loved ones that, you weren't interested in the old paradigm and the old dialectic. It was stale, the rhetoric. And in your lived reality, talk about moral authority, it was a force to be reckoned with. And people just started to flip. And so I thank you for that. I was saying it to many downstairs. Thank you for your courage and your leadership. And I know that, I said it, right? Didn't I tell you? I said, I'm going to come up here and say all these niceties, but I'll never deeply understand what you've lived through. For the grace of God, go any of us. And so, with humility and gratitude and the grace that you've displayed as an organization, thank you. Kennedy had the Community Mental Health Service Act in '63. Carter had good intentions in the '80s. Reagan does those block grants and flips that back. We start raising SROs and, redevelopment. We walk away from these issues. Keeps getting manifested. Worse and worse, stacking up. Reforms here, reforms there. But here we are, that final key link. And this is to Assemblywoman Irwin's point. We need the infrastructure as well. I hear it all the time. This is great, but where do we go? We were with a young man who was out there doing incredible work at Phoenix House, and he says 60 to 90 days. And then he's just silent. And we go, I got it. He goes, then what? Where do they go? Where do they go? What's the step down? What's the alternative? What's the opportunity? And that's what we're fulfilling. Rand put out, final thoughts. Rand put out a survey a couple years ago. It was an important survey. the deep dive analysis of what is needed in the state of California in terms of infrastructure, beds, boarding care, community-based, the whole panel, 6,000 or so units short. That gave us the ability to say, that's it? Feels like 600,000, but 6,000. And that became the process to which we developed and sized the bond, building off the extraordinary work and by the efficacy and outcomes of the veterans' work that's been done in the state. And we took that billion and we built it to $6.38 billion, $6.4 billion, which is the equivalent now of over 11,000 new units and beds. In addition, 27,000 new treatment slots for outpatient care that will also benefit from this bond. We're going big. This is big. So those are the two bills. That's the bookmark. That's the opportunity today. Building on all the incredible work that Mark Galley, can you just give a big round of applause to Mark Galley has been doing? Secretary Galley, Lindsay Lourdes, this CalAIM, this $11 billion 5-year effort to integrate brain health and physical health, to focus on whole person care at scale statewide, to focus on treating brain health early before we punish it later, to provide opportunities through 1115 waiver, to begin the process of getting rental subsidies, and to have the opportunity to create stability as it relates to now incorporating housing through those federal funds and federal waivers, the work we're doing on IMD with $600 million, the recognition across the spectrum of the importance of our youth, $4.6 billion, a new master plan for our youth of new money that was just passed a couple of years ago. All of that integrating into this moment. So if I am not coming off as proud, I'm not doing my job, but also deeply humble. And I'll close by saying this in its final words. I said it downstairs. Everyone's expression is unique. Life is challenging, and I don't know what more evidence we need than turning on the morning news. Everything that's going on. And I just want to close. You guys, all of you, you said there's two kinds of people who have been diagnosed, people that have been undiagnosed. But I also, before I sign, I just want to say this to all of you. I hope you're taking care of yourselves. I don't care, especially you fancy people. You put on your little uniform every day and act like you're all that. But everybody, what we went through the last few years, if you paused and really thought about it, social unrest, not just a pandemic, loss of loved ones. You may have literally lost a loved one, suicide, your own thoughts in that space, social isolation, disconnection, family, friends, relationships, sense of normalcy, just torn asunder in the last few years to a degree few generations have ever had to experience. I hope you reflect on that. The fact that you're here, man, that's testament to you and your remarkable capacity. But I hope you take care of yourself. And I hope you're not too hard on yourself. Don't judge yourself, and don't compare yourself. Someone said to me, powerful words, the thief of all happiness is comparison. And so I'm here in that mindset as well, because it's very stressful out there. And it's hard. And so I just want you to know we're all in this together. And we're all better off, and we're all better off. And I just want to thank you for your example. Thank you for not giving into that fear and anxiety. Thank you for not giving into that cynicism. Thank you for showing up today. Thank you for always showing up for each other. And thank you for the privilege of my life to have the opportunity to invite all of you up here to sign these two extraordinary bills. Thank you all for this privilege and opportunity. Let's all get up. Well, thanks, guys, for being here. Obviously, an exciting day for us, but this day marks a moment in the journey. That journey will, of course, culminate in March with a ballot initiative, Prop 1, which will now be focused on with earnest now that the bill is signed, organizing to galvanize this state across jurisdictions, north, south, east, west, but also across party lines. And I think the a point that needs to be emphasized that wasn't emphasized in the room is this was bipartisan legislation that we signed today. Democrats, Republicans, all of us impacted by the issue of mental health, mental illness, and recognize the enormity of the task, the enormity of our obligations to do more and better. And so we're very excited about the prospects of our success in March. And moreover, the prospects that we're promoting of real fundamental change across the spectrum, the seen and unseen, not just those that are on the streets and sidewalks, but those that are suffering alone and suffering the consequences of neglect and isolation. And so this is a big day for all of us. I think it's a big day for not only the state, but I think this is a model for the nation as well. We're happy to, of course, answer any questions.
Governor, last time you and I talked, was it a week ago?
Yeah.
We're old friends now.
Yeah, we are. Yes. We were talking gas back then.
That's right, we were.
Yeah.
So when you look at this, every Californian, I think, looks at the $10.9 billion and goes, wow, that's a lot of money. How do people know this is going to make a dent in a problem that many people feel like they've spent a lot of money on and haven't seen enough results?
No, I mean, what distinguishes this is there's an acknowledgement in the reform that we need to be more accountable to what's really going on, and notably what's happening on the streets and sidewalks. All of us see it every single day, and I think those that are most enlightened recognize there's no compassion stepping over people on the streets and sidewalks, that we have to address the issue differently and more strategically. And reforming this Mental Health Services Act without increasing taxes at all allows us to invest $1 billion a year ongoing with the expectation that the counties know that money will be forthcoming, that allow them to build partnership and capacity that focuses on stabilization, dealing with the underlying issue in the first place. It's very difficult. I can't even imagine. You're living under a freeway overpass, and we're doing outpatient treatment, but you're going right back into the elements every single night. I mean, I don't know about you, but a lot of us self-medicate every single night with a beer or a glass of wine watching the news. You can imagine living in the elements. You can't moralize that. People with drug or alcohol addictions, with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, paranoia, but they don't have that housing stability. You need that housing stability. It's foundational. And then the ability to have people that are duly diagnosed now with substance abuse disorders, not just those with mental health or mental illness, isolated, is the foundational shift. And it's all around accountability. It's all about results.
Governor, in July, the Legislative Analyst's Office said this proposal would result in less discretion for counties and likely less spending on other programs. And one of the questions they pose is, what are the trade-offs of reducing flexibility for counties?
I don't see this as trade-offs. I have an abundance mindset. That's a scarcity mindset. This is stacked on all these other reforms, new money that was never even imagined 5 years ago. New strategies, new tools from Care Court itself, new general fund support for the Care Court model, the $4.6 billion we set aside for master plan for youth. That was money that didn't pre-exist. The reforms with our 1115 waivers as it relates to what we're trying to do with IMD, the money we put up in the space, the opportunities with CalAIM, all of those are stacking of additional resources that didn't exist. So that old county mindset is the reason we've never reformed the Mental Health Services Act since 2004. And with respect, it goes to the first question. There's a group of people that literally hold hands and talk about the way the world should be. And well-intended, I assume, go out and have a candlelight vigil. And then there's folks that are the hard-headed pragmatists that are out there trying to actually get things done. And I think it's the latter that prevailed here. I've been doing this a long time as a former county mayor, not just as a city mayor, and I've heard these same arguments over and over again that we're opposing any fundamental reform. And now we are in a completely different paradigm where people are actually promoting the reform that in the past were part of that brigade of opposing it. I think people recognize we need to do things differently, and we've never been more abundant, ever, in our history, in this space than we are today in terms of resources, and now a more resourceful mindset.
Are you optimistic this is going to work?
I know it will work because I saw the results of some of the progress that we have made over the last few years. This is not the first stab at change. We've been promoting change for a number of years, and we saw that downstairs when I met with a lot of individuals that were beneficiaries of the work. So I know that the issue can be solved. I don't think it, I know it. There's just too many individuals, too many people. In fact, they're standing right behind you. A lot of people's lives have completely changed, but they needed that support. They needed the early intervention. About 50% of mental health incidents really occur before the age of 14, 75% before the age of 24. You've got to treat brain health early before we punish it later. We spend a fortune on the back end. Back to the point, will take time, but at the same time, the voters have the opportunity in March to begin the process anew with different level of accountability and expectations. So absolutely, I know it will work.
Well, Governor, in March, what will be the sales pitch to voters? Like, what will be the, the elevator pitch to vote?
Well, if you care about the status quo, then vote no. You care about veterans, you care about accountability, you care not to spend any more money of your hard-earned taxpayer dollars, but you want to make sure that the dollars that are already being appropriated are used more wisely and thoughtfully to address the issues and the conditions that define the biggest stress in the state of California. Vote yes on Prop 1.
You talked a lot about accountability. Can you outline some of the ways that accountability will be achieved, some of the specific measures?
I've got the accountability brigade here that wants to talk about all of that, and Dr. Galley is leading the accountability brigade, and he'll give you some acronyms you'll have to look up.
I'll try not to.
Spell your name first.
Ghaly. So, look, today we don't get a clear sense of what's actually happening with these dollars. We don't have the data systems for counties to report up what they're doing. We don't even have the data systems at the state level to digest what they're doing. We don't know if the outpatient services that are funded through the Mental Health Services Act are making the kind of difference in the lives of people that it was intended to make a difference for. We don't know if it's co-occurring disorders or bipolar or depression. We don't know if people are cycling in and out of jail or not. That changes with this. We get to establish statewide measures that matter for Californians to see that difference. The question that said, how do you know that you're going to see a difference? It's because we're going to track the information, not just at the statewide level. We know that we don't live at the statewide level. We're going to live county by county and understand what's happening with that data. So we're going to resource the counties, make sure they have what it takes to deliver that information to us. We're going to post it publicly. We're going to work with county by county to make sure they have the tools to make a difference when we're seeing problems with the data. And we're going to set goals collectively that matter to Californians. And that alone, it's not what you expect, it's what you inspect sometimes. And we're going to increase our ability to do that hand in hand with our county partners. So every taxpayer in California can say, I understand where this is going, it's making a difference, and when it isn't, we're changing our ways and making it a little better. So that's how we're going to do it. It's not that complicated, it's just something we've never done before. And 20 years into the Mental Health Services Act, this is a key feature. Talk about all the other changes, substance use disorder, prioritization, a focus on housing, really, really important. But without the accountability, we'll never know if we're actually delivering on that promise.
And by the way, accountability sometimes often comes in different forms. And one of the great frustrations a lot of us have is the inability to cite programs, to cite and construct new facilities, even board and care, even rehabbing existing spaces. What we're doing is we're building off a lot of the reforms the last few years that we did during COVID as it relates to our home key model that allows for as-of-right zoning, et cetera, and then building off that in terms of the infrastructure dollars. Remember, 11,000+ new units that build off those reforms through COVID that allow us actually to cite these things. And they're different types of units. We're not interested, I can assure you this with respect, I have zero interest as a taxpayer, as a governor, to see $900,000 per key costs associated with a unit. We want cost-efficient units to be built and rehabbed, and we want alternatives across the spectrum. And so we've designed this very strategically with speed in mind to actually produce the results. I don't want to see this in 20, 30 years. You don't want to either. We don't want to wait for an audit 5 years from now and you're all rolling your eyes going, what the hell is going on? And why am I back doing the same story I did on prop this, on prop that? We've learned those lessons and we've built all of that into this new strategy.
Governor, if I may, I don't mean to sound redundant here, but I want to come back to the money. So assume voters pass this in March on the ballot. How quickly does the money begin moving to the communities that apply for the, what I assume will be the grants? And then secondarily, 10.9 billion, right? It does, that's the total, that's the total.
Yeah, if you include the 6.38 billion plus the existing funding that we're providing. And that's, and I'm going to make this very confusing for you. You look at our totality of investment in this space over the next 3 to 5 years, and this is an actual number, $28 billion. This is next level investments. And so the 10.9 is just a component part. So that goes to the point of just, money's not the issue if this initiative passes. Money's the excuse. It's now about accountability, holding me accountable, but holding locals. I say it all the time, localism's determinative. The state doesn't fulfill the vision. That's realized at the local level. And that's why we had to get aggressive with the counties, with all due respect. As a former county mayor, I know that's hard, but it's remarkable how many county leaders were willing to accept that responsibility and helped advance and support it. And I know Hilda Solis, among others, is here, that said, we support the change. We recognize we have obligations as well. We want more flexibility and we want more housing in return, and that's what they got.
How quickly, though, before the money moves, if it's passed?
The money should be able to flow right away. Again, Mental Health Service Act dollars are going out in real time. This just begins the paradigm shift in real time.
If not tax money, where does it come from?
So the existing money comes from that tax, Prop 63. It's the 1% quote-unquote millionaires tax. It was established by the gentleman on your left in 2004. If you want to complain about taxes, talk to that guy. As it relates to so that money, get up here, the face of that tax. So the money's already going out, and that shift will occur in real time in the fiscal year as we begin that process of transition. But I'd be remiss if I didn't give you the mic.
The governor said it when he made his statement earlier. The number one question that people ask who are in this field or trying to help people who are living on the streets is, where can I help people go? Where is there a roof? Where is there a bed? And the problem has been with the Mental Health Services Act that money has been well spent. A lot of people have been helped, but there has not been up until now the state leadership to demand that the money be spent where the needs are the greatest, and that is to build more beds and to build more roofs. 1/3 of this money under Proposition 1 has to be spent on housing and housing supports for people living with serious mental illness. Another 30% has to be spent on what has been proven to work, which is the wraparound service model. That 60+% of the money will now be directed to be spent on the problem that is the most serious crisis in our state. We did our best 20 years ago to put all those elements in, but we gave the discretion, frankly, to the counties, and they've done a good job. It's just now is the time to focus the money. That's what accountability is to say the people want the money spent on homelessness, on people coming in and out of our criminal justice system. They want the money spent on helping teenagers to avoid that first break where once they get into the system, it's so hard to come back. That's what the people want, and that's what this reform is delivering. That's accountability.
On your point, Mayor, on that 30% on housing, is there at this point any flexibility for counties to have some more discretion on that specific 30%?
Yes, there was an amendment made, I know at the end, with Dr. Galley and the governor's leadership to allow a percentage of the money to be used for non-housing needs. You know, if a county is meeting its housing numbers, so there is some of that discretion, but there is nothing wrong with the state leading. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's right not to tell the counties exactly how to spend the money or what kind of housing or exactly how to implement this. But up until this governor, no governor, honestly, has taken the mantle and said, we want to see the outcomes that the people are demanding. So this is a reform, in my view, that is long overdue. And that's why this is a historic day.
We never saw the bill being signed. Do you have a copy of it?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. How did you miss that?
No.
Hilda, did you steal the bill?
We got to see it.
What is that? How can you? I need, well, let me. Do we have a copy of the bill? We can do a fake bill signing. I mean, and then I'll get to the. I mean, a real bill signing, not a fake one. Jesus, like. Did we have a do that? Yeah. Well, okay, and I'll get to that.
Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just, as we all see on the street, we're talking about the unhoused with security. How is security going to be put into the workers to be protected from the mental health that we have seen? Also, like the violence that has been created in their heads as well.
Well, maybe, when I got a doctor, I might as well have the doctor answer that question.
I think it's an important question, and in healthcare broadly, we've been facing a crisis within the workforce. And I think Governor Newsom, this administration, so many of the legislators who are here recognize that and have invested in it. So it comes with recruitment, comes with training, it comes with support of individuals while they're doing their work. I think it's a real thing we've got to recognize in how we create and support the not-for-profits doing the work. It is a real issue. And if we're going to make the kind of movement that we want to see on this issue, how do we deal with the intersection of substance use, mental health, and homelessness, frankly, incarceration as well? We've got to support people to have what they need to do that work day in and day out. And so there are ways to do that. There are evidence-based ways to do it. And this move is allowing us to do that at a scale that we've never been able to do before. And I think that will be one of the judges of how we're doing in the future, right? Do we actually see a workforce that's healthy and thriving while we're making the kind of impacts that we want to see in the lives of those they're serving?
And remember, the workforce investments here are profound and significant. The idea that we have ongoing money now to invest in that workforce, to train that workforce, to support that workforce is particularly significant as it relates to this initiative as well. That is so often overlooked. It was not overlooked as it relates to these efforts in this initiative. Remember, the 65,000 figure is the goal in terms of support. 65,000 workers that we're hoping to train and recruit. That is a significant number. And that goes across the system, not just for these new sites or slots, but more broadly into the healthcare system as well. So this effort will support those broader efforts. May I sign this? So we can at least get up here, Daryl. Yeah, we're doing this for the first time.
This is it. Wow.
These are the actual bills, but
copy.
the copy of the bills. So thank you. They're good. And then the fake applause. Amazing. Yeah. All right.
Tom and Karen. Can I get Tom and Karen?
Yeah, get Tom and Karen. Yeah, actually,
Karen.
yeah,
Come
there are
on,
actually
Karen
some
Larson,
faces
come on.
you should see
Please.
because they did not get enough
the
attention.
Institute leadership.
Yeah, get in here. Get in here.
Yes.
Dr. Galley,
Dr. Galley.
Dr. G.
Mark.
Yeah.
Dr. Galley, you get
This
in
is the bill.
Yeah, I mean, these are actually the bills. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, go get in here, Loris and Lindsay, too. Our agency directors. All right, thanks, guys. Thanks all. Oh, I'll grab you.